This is Spacecoast Business, spotlighting East Central Florida's business community. This week's guests, Scott Miller and Tracy Duda-Chapman from the Viera Company. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pearsall.
Hello, and welcome to the Spacecoast Business Show. I'm Jeff Pearsall, and our focus every week is to share with you best business practices around Brevard County and really to address a lot of the important issues that affect you on a day-to-day basis. This evening, we've got a really special show. We're going to be featuring and speaking with the Viera Company. And when I think of the Viera Company, because Viera means faith, I really think of the definitions of faith and fear. Many people don't really recognize that the definition is exactly the same thing. It's the things unseen in your future. The question becomes, which one of those two will you operate your future with, faith or fear? And the Viera Company has become a great example of not just the name Viera meaning faith, but they operate just that same way. And our special guests this evening are Scott Miller, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing, and just a very, very warm welcome and a great introduction to Brevard County, and I'm honored to have you here with us, the brand new CEO of the Viera Company, Tracy Duda-Chapman. And Tracy, thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Now, Tracy, I have to kind of steer off the path and say thanks for being here because, you know, I have a lot of contribution that goes to the University of Alabama. And I know we're in the heart of Seminole and in the Gator land, but you know, my wife graduated from there, and as I discovered, it basically is at the same time you were at the University of Alabama, and now my daughter goes there. So,
well, very wise choice for
wise
her.
Choice. Definitely. Wise to see that the wisdom was followed.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Tracy, let's start with you, and you know, there's a lot about the Duda family that's just rich in tradition, and this particular Viera area was a long-term memory of the Duda family, and it's very cherished, and it's quite special. Referred to as the Cocoa Ranch by Joseph, your uncle. Just share with us some of the past and where this has come about.
Well, I grew up spending a lot of time at the Cocoa Ranch with my father and my grandparents, and my grandfather and his two brothers were very passionate about the Cocoa Ranch as well. They loved to come out here. They enjoyed just being on the land and enjoying the land.
And your father was Ferdinand, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and that would be the second generation?
Third generation.
Third generation.
Right.
Okay.
Ferdinand Sr. was my grandfather, and then my father is Ferdinand. So
okay.
Third generation with Joseph is his brother.
All right.
So I think everyone in the family have a lot of experiences of growing up, going to the Cocoa Ranch, picnicking, fishing, hunting, you know, doing a lot of activities. I know Scott spent some time out there. His family has always enjoyed horseback riding. Joseph's a big, was big in cattle, ran our cattle business, and a wonderful horseback rider, and his daughters grew up doing that a lot. And, you know, I think because we all did that, it is a very special place for us, and so we want to do the right things when we go to developing the land. And certainly none of us anticipated, I guess, what Viera is today. I think we're all very proud of the things that we've been able to do in the community, the kind of lifestyle that is there, and the kind of amenities that are there that I think build a community that people want to live in. And we hope to do that going forward as we, you know, proceed with the rest of the Cocoa Ranches. We
right.
find it hard to call it something else. But,
well, I can understand that. It's been so much a part of your life. And, you know, there's never hesitates where people who grow up outdoors and have an appreciation for nature, they just have a different perspective on life, and they protect it. And you can see that in the things that you've done in Viera. Now, Scott, both of you are fourth generation Duda family, and there's a lot of challenges in that. I mean, when we look at family businesses, it's very lucky for a family business to pass on to the second generation, much less be able to make it to the third, which is under the leadership of Joseph at this time. And obviously, you guys are a major part of this new transition going into the fourth generation. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about some of those challenges?
Well, certainly there are. You're absolutely right. Most family businesses don't make it past that first generation or the second generation. I think it's really a testament to the family values of the Duda family that we have made it. Tracy that we're now transitioning into the fourth generation, which is Tracy and my generation. As we go forward, Tracy just noted that the first sixth generation Duda is just been announced, and we're hoping they'll be coming along soon. So,
well, congratulations.
Well, thank you. I think it does. It really comes back to the core values of the family, the way that the family has stuck together. I think everyone knows that Viera means faith, and certainly the Christian faith and the Christian basis of the family really, I think, is the cornerstone of the success of the family and the reason that the family has stuck together and made it through all of those challenges that we've had.
Well, I've had the fortunate or unfortunate opportunity to be familiar with some of the long-standing families of Florida and the challenges that they've had, and being able to get to know not just yourself and Joseph here in the Viera area. It's been absolutely astounding to see the dedication, to see the commitment, not just to the family, but to share. And I think that's really the most significant piece is that, it's one thing to go do something. It's another whole thing to make sure that you're in a sharing environment. And, you can go to Viera.com is your website, correct?
Correct.
And Joseph actually has a piece on there that I would challenge all of our listeners to go and hear, because he really tells the story of the Cocoa Ranch and the things that are happening for the future and the importance. And anybody who listens to that gets a real good idea of the Viera development. Now, I want to transition and just kind of mention a little bit about this generational thing that you brought up. The sixth generation is on its way. It actually started with the senior grandfather, who then passed on to the three sons, Andrew, John, and Ferdinand. And then there was the third generation of 12 members, I believe is correct. And then the fourth generation, there's 46 of you. 75 or 6 and counting for the fifth generation, and the sixth is just getting started. So, congratulations. I mean, when you look at that from a shareholder basis and creating and having the consistency of commitment, that's quite an undertaking, Tracy, and congratulations to you.
Well, it definitely is, and it does take a lot of work, I think, to keep a family business together. And we have always been very proactive in seeking out third parties that can assist us and help us, who have experience in guiding family businesses through generational transfer and just issues that face a family business. And even in our generation, the fourth generation, only a third of us work in the business. 2/3 don't. So it means you have to do a really good job of communicating and involving the family in not so much the business, but the business of the family and how you keep the family together. And so we've really worked on that, and we actually have a Duda Family Council that helps govern the business of the family. And we get together at the same time that we have shareholder meetings and have family picnics, and it's quite a fun time, and I think people really enjoy getting together.
Those are kind of the same principles that any family could use or any business. So congratulations. Let's talk a little bit about the vision, Scott. There's been a lot of development in Viera with a vision that came from 10, 15, 20 years ago as much, and now there's even a bigger vision, and I really agree with that, as you well know. I mean, we've all got to keep expanding our vision to be able to grow and to do things right. So tell us about Viera today.
Well, really what we're looking to do is we're looking to go ahead and take the next step in the evolution of the development process. Historically, what we've done in Viera is really the best practices for conventional development. And we use the term a lot internally at the Viera company that we're always looking to raise the bar. And we really are. And I think that what we're looking to do in the next phase of development is to put the best practices in place. And the best practices are to create a sustainable community. And to create a sustainable community, we're going to look to cluster our development in 4 villages. And each of those villages would be about 1,000 to 1,500 acres. And really what we do by clustering development is we leave more open space. We're able to, preserve over 40% of the land in the next expansion area by clustering our development. We're able to create sustainable communities where we can go ahead and have village centers that have a lot of your daily needs retail, where you can go ahead and walk to the pizza parlor, where you can walk to, we can walk to your office, where you can truly live, work, and play. And that's really the big focus. That's really the next vision for Viera, is to capitalize on the best practices of today, development practices, which are to cluster development, to go ahead and make your community sustainable, to make it walkable, to make it connected, to connect with a fine-grained road network. We want to solve the transportation issues within our community. Right. And that's all a big part of the plan that you see coming for the next phase of Viera.
Now, the total acreage of this particular development, or let's just take the ranch itself. The total acres is how big at this time?
The ranch, when purchased in 1943, was 38,000 acres. And to give you an idea of the scale of that, really from the north tip of the ranch to the south tip along I-95, there's 8 miles of frontage. So it's a tremendous piece of property.
Yeah, most people are familiar with now the avenues and the ballpark and the county government, and they may not be familiar, although it does happen, and it's a great location because it is the exact center of this 72-mile county, which makes accessibility absolutely perfect, and Orlando International Airport within 30 minutes, basically.
Correct. We are on the ranch is actually the geographic center of Brevard County. And certainly with the consolidation of the government services facilities there, the school board there, the courthouse, the Spacecoast Stadium, spring training facility for the Washington Nationals, we really are a central hub for all of Brevard County.
Now, how many of the acres are going to end up being developed by the time that you're finished with the DRIs that you're looking at instituting?
Well, the next, or substantial deviation to this DRI would add on about 11,000 acres to the project. And we would be...
And you currently have how many already in the project?
We have about 9,000 in the project right now.
Okay. So about 20,000 of this is going to end up being developed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And of course, now the next phase of development, over 44% of that would be preserved. And that's just preservation areas. Certainly there'll be additional open space and parks and other areas within that.
That's an interesting point, Scott, because you've got this 20,000 that you're building, but inside that 20,000, 44% of it is being left for preservation and conservation.
Right. Inside the next, 11,000 acres that we're adding, 44% of that land would be preserved in the Viera Wilderness Park.
Wow. And that's really an important statement. Now, most of this then, people probably don't realize. I've been out to the parks, involved with the Little League programs out there, and it's interesting to listen to you guys explain how almost the highest point of the county runs almost along 95. And then it starts to slope all the way to the St. Johns River. And when you see a sunset over there, it's spectacular because it just looks like it's going way deep off into the horizon.
Right. A lot of people don't realize if you see an aerial photograph of our property is basically a peninsula that juts out into the St. Johns. The St. Johns really wraps around the western border of our property.
The development that we're talking about when you refer to a DRI, so that the viewing audience can understand, what does DRI mean?
DRI means Development of Regional Impact. And basically, a DRI is a development that reaches a certain threshold or magnitude in size or scope that it has to go through this very extensive review process. So a DRI is reviewed locally, regionally, and at a state level. So all of those agencies have input into the DRI approval process. Basically what the DRI approval process is allowing all of those agencies to go ahead and make sure that the impact of this development will not be negative on the surrounding communities, that this is going to be a well-planned, well-thought-out development, that we will have all of the infrastructure and utilities present to go ahead and make the development successful.
And you've already had the first phase of your DRI already approved. That's the developments that we see today. But there's actually more that's already been approved inside that, and that's your town center development that's inside that existing DRI. And that's going to be a fabulous addition to the area. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, there's probably not a single element of Viera currently that is more exciting or generated more excitement than the Viera Town Center. And really the Town Center is exactly as it says. That is the center of our town of Viera. This is really the area that when people think of Viera once the Town Center is completed, we believe they'll think of the Town Center. This is where we want to have our art shows. This is where we want to have our farmers markets. This is where we want to have our civic building or our town hall where people can meet and gather. We'll have signature restaurants there. We'll have retail, ground floor retail. We'll have offices and apartments above that. This will truly be a place where all the residents of Viera and Central Brevard will really come to gather to truly live, work, play, and shop.
And when we look at the map of this entire area, this area is actually just on the west side across from the avenues that most people might be familiar with currently. Is that correct?
Correct. Right at the signalized intersection there, entering into the primary entrance into the avenue, this would be just west of that. The project would kind of wrap around the Durand 9-hole short course.
Right. And there's going to be a kind of lakefront that's also going to be a part of this?
Lakefront, really central feature is about a 5-acre park that wraps around the lake and overlooks the Durand short course, the 9-hole short course there. We'll have a lot of our programming there. We'll hopefully have fireworks there at 4th of July. Again, a place where you can shop, where you can stroll, where you can go ahead and work. Really for the people that are looking for more of an urban experience, certainly the residential offerings that we'll have there, the apartments above the retail or the office above the retail, will really provide a nice residential option for them.
Scott, with all of this growth of Viera, and I live up in the area of Sun Tree, so I've watched a lot of it and experienced it. And with growth, there's always the challenges. And one of the big ones that always steps out in the forefront is transportation, because you can never get the transportation systems in front of the growth. It's just part of the deal. But I find it really interesting how the Viera company has stepped out and taken the forefront of this. You've just completed and opened up the Viera Overpass, which is the Viera Boulevard Overpass on 95. And many people don't realize it, but this, looks like a state property. It looks like a state-funded project. But you guys did this all on your own, didn't you?
Fully funded and constructed by the Viera company. We're very proud of the Viera Boulevard Overpass. Just driving to a planning meeting yesterday, I was driving up 95 with one of my coworkers, and we were watching the cars going across Viera Boulevard, and we realized every car that's going across Viera Boulevard, there's probably one less car that's impacting the traffic on Wickham Road. We're providing another ingress and egress point to the project, and it's great and very gratifying to see the people using it.
Yeah, my daughter is a sophomore at Viera High School, and what a great addition to the community that's been. But she was just telling me the other day they've been going to school using Wickham Road all year long. And they discovered the Viera Overpass last week, and she was like, Dad, we took the Viera Overpass, and within 3 minutes we were home. And she said, it's what a great concept. I was like, 10th graders, they catch on sooner or later.
Yeah.
Now, the new DRI, you actually are just looking to expand on your existing one. Is that correct?
Correct. Well, we're looking to go ahead and complete the vision, and that's basically the balance of our property. Again, I think people, when you hear the term 11,000 acres, it can raise some eyebrows. Wow, that's a lot of land. But I think it's important for people to understand that, we are planning comprehensively and developing incrementally. Just because we get the approval on this 11,000 acres, we still have to go ahead and it's analogous to getting accepted to college. Just because you get into college, you still have to continue to make the grade. The same way with a DRI. We still have to meet annual review and monitoring of our project, meet certain obligations under our development order to continue to develop. So we're looking to go ahead and plan this comprehensively, but it will be developed incrementally in phases.
And as we kind of look at the map, you've mentioned these 4 different kind of communities. How do you see those communities interacting to the main central town center that's in the plans already?
Well, again, the town center is meant to be a gathering point, a central gathering point. Every community needs a town center. Every community needs a focal point where the residents come together, where they identify a point that they're proud of, and that's the role of the town center. The villages are really intended to be independent villages. They'll be connected to the rest of the community by a fine-grained road network, but they're intended to be a place where people can truly live, work, and play as well. Each of those villages is intended to have its own unique identity. The first village, Village 1, is just south of the new Health First facility.
Right.
And so, the new Health First facility will have, an additional 2,000 employees there upon completion. Those
2,000 more people
2,000 more
right
people.
There. And when's that going to be completed?
The Pro Health and Fitness, they're looking to open up this coming June. Then the balance of that would be a couple of years down the road before they would have
and again,
the hospital.
that's that implementation process. It's not
Correct.
just dropping on top of you.
Correct.
Well, go ahead. You were saying
correct. And so the Village 1 will probably have a very medical oriented feel to it. We'll cater a lot to the Health First folks there. You'll have a little village center that will have a lot of your daily needs retail. Certainly will cater to the lunch needs and the dinner needs of the folks that are working at the hospital there. So that's really the focus of that village. And then Village 2 to the south is where the Pineda Interchange will be coming in.
Right.
The Pineda Interchange will be coming in to the south there. Then Village 3 is just west of that. And then, probably 15 to 20 years from now, the last village we build will be Village 4, which is at the end of Viera Boulevard at the western edge of the property.
And Tracy, I know that you've been serving with from Governor Bush as the chairperson in the Florida Environmental Regulation Committee, and I think it's significant with that background how the Viera company plans this entire DRI with the idea to conservation and wilderness. I'd love to hear your opinions and attitude about that.
Well, I think as a company, the Viera company, and as a family, we think the right way to plan a community is to think about the impact on a large scale. And so you can't just incrementally say, oh, well, we think in the next, 5 to 10 years we need this many acres to develop. You have to think, what is this going to look like, 20, 30, 40 years from now? What kind of community do people want to live in? And I think we all know that one element that people really want to see in a community is some natural environment.
Right.
In preserving things that, I think really represent our state and what Florida is all about. And that's what we've tried to do with the Wilderness Park. We think it's very important, critical element of the plan. And we can only do that when you go forward with a large-scale plan. You can only afford really to preserve 5,100 acres if you're thinking about developing, the full 11,000 and preserving 44% of it.
Right.
You can't do that when you do incremental development. And so it's the right approach to really be environmentally sensitive and preserve the elements of the Cocoa Ranch that we think need to be preserved and that will benefit the habitat out there and the wetlands that, exist in various spots on the ranch.
I got to say, it's great to be out there playing a ball game and the thousands of kids that are affected. And you could be in a game at the park and over the top there'll be eagles flying over because they have nests that are out there. And what a great way to cooperate with nature and to learn. You guys referred to your core values earlier. And, I know every employee gets a copy of those. You carry your cards. You got your cards with you. And I think every company and every family could learn from those core values. And if you guys would just kind of interact and share with our listening audience those core values, I would really appreciate it.
Well, first and foremost is faith in the Lord. And that's what brought my great-grandfather here, religious freedom. That's what brought him to America, and the ability to own land. I mean, those were the things that really brought him here. So at the forefront of our values is faith in the Lord, and we think He has richly blessed us.
In addition, faith in the goodness of people. I mean, I think that's our second core value. We believe in the goodness of people, and that's important. That's an important part of the values of the company.
And we feel like we have a responsibility to our customers, our employees, and our shareholders. And everything that we do, we try to think about how that impacts, all the people that rely on us either as a customer or people that work for us, they're like our family. And certainly in a business, you have to think about your shareholders who happen to be family also.
Is there more core values listed?
Stewardship of the land. Stewardship of the land and the resources. As an agricultural-based company, and as Tracy's pointed out, there's a lot of emotional attachment to the land. You make your living off the land. And we truly do our best to go ahead and be good stewards of the property that we've been given.
Well, I think Joseph mentioned that on his little video that, we may own the land, but in some respects the Lord has just given it to us for a short while. And, you need to treat it the right way.
Well,
I do want to say,
yeah,
I'm sorry, but integrity in our business conduct. We've been in business for 81 years. Now, we haven't been real estate business that long, but certainly in all elements of our business, we've always been known for integrity and ethics, and that's very important to us. When we say we're going to do something, we do it.
Yes, you do.
I think, in addition is strength from diversity. The company is a diverse company. We have, operations in California and Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Florida. So we're a very diverse company. We grow sod, cattle, citrus, real estate, sugar cane, vegetables. So a very diverse company, and we have strength from that diversity.
Guys, I just want to thank you for joining us here this evening. I want to remind our viewing audience that you can go to Viera.com or you can go to BavardCounty.com, and you'll be able to see this show from both of those websites, share it with other people. There's a significant extension of this DRI, and I think that the important part for all of our viewing audience and citizens of Brevard County is to recognize that this is a DRI that already has an example set of good faith and productivity to the community and the economic impact that's so positive. And Scott and Tracy, it's such a pleasure to have you guys a part of our community. And Tracy, it's an honor to be able to introduce you to the county through the show and to have you here with us. I'm reminded of a statement that Henry Ford said as we wrap up, and that's, it really doesn't matter if you believe you can or that you believe you cannot. You're right in both situations. Thanks again for joining us this week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
You've been watching the Spacecoast Business Show. Join us every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. right here on Bright House Channel 15. Next week, Jeff's guest will be John Newton from Newton Land Development and Mike Sarrow from Gulfstream Commercial Real Estate as we spotlight East Central Florida's business community on the Spacecoast Business Show.